Hello, I'm Antoneya Banks-Graves, and thank you for listening to this episode of Managing Diversity in 2019. The topic is, what is diversity in the workplace, and should we care? Joining me today for this episode is Rhonda Graham, a doctoral student in organizational development. Let's begin by addressing the definition, or shall I say definitions, of diversity. What is diversity? To some people, it's language, race, age, culture, demographics, or hometown. All these things mentioned fall into the categories of diversity.
I would agree. I would even add that diversity is what we are authentically bringing to the table based on our upbringing of culture, what was told to us, what was instilled in us, and of course, all of this sets up the framework and foundation of how we interact and respond to others today. So when I bring up the upbringing of culture, I think about the different dimensions of what culture can look like to one person. Defining diversity can be challenging because there's so many layers and dimensions to an individual of what makes that person unique and authentic.
In your experience, and this is based on what you just stated, authenticity with culture, I believe you're absolutely right. It depends on the culture that we were reared in and how we're acceptable to accepting other people. So we would have to be authentic with our own culture, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What is this phenomenon we are calling diversity?
I think the phenomenon of what we are calling diversity would look differently based on what is the reality of where one lives. So, coming from an American perspective, since America is where I've lived the longest and been the most immersed in culturally, I believe that America's phenomenon or wonderment of culture is that when there's a room full of people who look different from one another, then we've obtained diversity. Case closed, business as usual. However, solely placing people who look differently from one another in a space together is just scraping the surface of diversity.
That's
How many,
great.
yeah. How many times have we been a prospective hire to organizations who've tried to implement a diversity initiative program that was designed to recruit and hire all races, nationalities, sexual orientations, and educational backgrounds. But once you obtain the job, your supervisors and other coworkers are unsure how to effectively communicate with you regarding typical workplace situations.
Do
For
you have an example?
Yeah, I do have an example. For example, I was working for a California charter school within Riverside County for their administration department. When I was hired there, I was the only worker who was African American, but most importantly for me, my supervisor was thrilled to hire me on. The coworkers' initial reaction towards me was somewhat distant and unsure, but they trusted their supervisor's choice of hire. And then as they began to know me a bit more within a span of a few weeks, they began talking jovially amongst themselves of what was going on in their personal lives, such as the loss and gains of their finances, medical condition, family drama, and just bad mouthing upper management constantly and incessantly. So for me, I did not engage with them in these conversations because my upbringing has instilled in me that you don't discuss private matters such as, personal finances, marital strife, and such at work. And due to the fact that I was new, I had no opinion on any of the topics that were being discussed, and I had no problem with upper management. So in my mind, I was hired to perform, ask questions, and learn, get paid, and go home. So going back to my family culture, I was taught that there needs to be a boundary of professionalism when discussing personal matters. And then due to the fact that I did not engage with them on those matters, had me automatically categorized as the oddball because I did not fit in with the created work culture that was set in place before I worked there.
That's interesting.
And so not fitting in within the work culture began to work against me by me having to experience workplace harassment and bullying. Workplace harassment and bullying destroys the appreciation of diversity. If I would have known what I know now, I would have sued everybody and retired young.
Okay, it's about, here's a question,
Mm-hmm.
rather statement. It's
Mm-hmm.
about, in regard to diversity, it's about age, race, or color.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or could it also be about our differences of opinion, ideas, skills, thought, and knowledge?
Mm. I think diversity is everything you have mentioned and some, because as generations continues to emerge within the workplace, there will be more added to the definition of diversity. I also think it's important to bring up that we can experience diversity not in just settings where everyone around us look differently, but also around those who are similar to us. I think it goes back to upbringing of what was instilled in us within our family, racial, and community culture. So, for example, some families who have the same racial background may have several ideas of what is important. Some may say that obtaining a degree is important because knowledge is power, while some may not believe in that and believe that work experience combined with a high salary is solely important. Some may be okay with planning their life and goals from day to day, and some may have realistic long term goal sets.
When thinking about diversity and inclusiveness, it involves different ideas, backgrounds, and different opinions when making decisions in the workplace. It's
Mm,
about encouraging a variety of thoughts, embracing new ideas. It doesn't mean we'll always agree on everything, but we can create a culture that welcomes innovation by adding value to our differences.
mhm.
Today, organizations represent different geographic, demographics, and cultural perspectives. I think the best way to support the needs of any organization is to reflect the same diverse representation with their workforce. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. 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 I would definitely agree myself. I think organizations need to get honest if they have the right work culture to embrace diversity to begin with. Because adopting a one size fits all mindset and approach for everyone does not work for everybody. And then as going back to inclusiveness, inclusiveness means that we have to have open communication of what is going on inside and outside of our organizations because that affects our organizations. Uh,
Absolutely.
yes, definitely. And most organizations do not want to engage in these types of discussions because it promotes unsurety, uncomfortability, it costs time, money. But see, that's where you would call organizational development consultants to come in.
And that would be you or myself,
Exactly.
right?
And you're
Um, the other question I had, and you can also chime in on this if you'd like, why should we care about cultural diversity in the workplace? And
hmm
here are a few reasons I think we should care. Um,
hmm
increase creativity. A
hmm
diversity of ideas and viewpoints can lead to creative breakthrough. An
hmm
organization comprised of employees from diverse ethnic backgrounds,
hmm
generations, genders, races, and religions,
hmm
just to name a few, has more creative energy to harness than one that does not in the workforce.
Oh,
Um,
of course, of course.
Also foster innovation, different practices that arise from having lived in for instance, foreign country. I know some people that I have worked with, consultants, have lived in a foreign country, and
hmm
practicing certain religion can lead to innovative products.
Oh, yeah.
Better consumer understanding. If you don't have somebody with a diverse viewpoint in your boardroom, then the demographic group that you purport to serve can be questioned if somebody's not advocating for their interest as well.
Yes.
It
Yes.
also benefits richer brainstorming. A diversity of opinions, ideas, and input can lead to richer, more productive discussions during brainstorming sessions. In contrast, an environment where everyone's opinions mirror each other has a
hmm
high probability of producing a stagnant result.
hmm
Why have someone that's going to think just like you?
Exactly.
Better decision making. Diverse perspectives lead to better decisions for your organization, your employees and your customers.
Mhm.
That's why I think all those things would be beneficial. Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
Oh, yeah, I would say all of this that you have mentioned that, you summarize so beautifully and so concisely is definitely true. I've known some organizations that have different demographic representations within their organizations, and that has led to a lot of creativity and innovation and make people just excited and love their job even more because they feel like their demographic group can be representative and can be represented and have a voice, not just on certain months that's geared
Mhm.
towards heritage months, like,
Yes,
February is Black History Month. We're going to talk about, Martin Luther King and Cesar Chavez and all this. No, it's constantly being embraced every single day. It doesn't stop at a month.
absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. I would like to thank our listeners for listening. Thank you so much, Rhonda Graham, for joining us today and sharing your thoughts about diversity. And
Anytime.
I would also like to mention that this program is sponsored by Elite Organizational Consulting. Have a great day.